You've obviously won it, Sean. What is
This
that?
meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the council's website. The council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act of 2018. We broadcast and record council meetings to fulfil our public obligations. Has obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with council published policies available through the council's website. Members of the council are reminded that they should follow the council's established meeting protocol, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Okay, I suppose I may as well start by apologising for the lateness of one of the reports that we've got and asking the committee to like a 5-minute recess to quickly go through the contents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they just
okay,
yeah.
5 minutes enough? Yeah,
It's in their inbox.
okay. Just to let those attending online know that the paper is in your inbox, if you want to just read it through there. Okay, so we'll reconvene at 3:05. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do we have any apologies, substitutions or declarations of interest?
Convener, we have apologies from councillor Daisley to be substituted by councillor Reynolds. So we'll move to a roll call. And the following councillors, please indicate they're present at the meeting. Councillor Brooks. In chamber. Councillor Cassidy.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Clockety.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Hellier.
Present in chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
Present in chamber.
Provost McKenzie.
In chamber.
Councillor Nelson. Chamber. Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Chris.
Thank you, convener. Obviously, I've been a long-time supporter of this project of Dunrod Road, agenda item number 6. Since the original decisions were taken, I now have a connection to a business owner who could be affected by any decisions made today with respect to Dunrod Road project. But having applied the objective test, I do not consider it sufficiently significant to the decision on any funding as to amount to a declarable interest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks very much. Item 7, I'll make reference to a survey, and that survey has been paid for by a family friend, but as there's no significance to it, I've asked for information only security.
Okay. Okay, item number 2 in the agenda.
Convener, just before you
John.
move on, it's just to say in respect of agenda item number 6, I, like councillor Curley, have or rather know one of the business owners that would be affected by this closure of Dunrod Road, and it's just to notify everyone of that. It won't affect my decision making, and I will be in the chamber.
Okay, Sandra.
Thank you. Just like to state the declaration of interest, the same as Councillor Curley's. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 2 is the environment regeneration revenue budget 25-26. Matt, can you take that?
Yeah, thank you, Convener. This is standard revenue report. It's nothing really unusual in here. You'll see from 1.3 that the previous underspend was reduced. We're still showing £11,000 underspend for the year. Also, with March now, so all the big items will be picked up and we put that round about the return to the year. So it's not revenue until in section 4 and appendices, and through that, I'll ask any questions. And the committee is just asked to note that position and also know that the cost. Just on that, Convener, we're well, that's been outstanding for a while. I had that discussion with the every week and over thinking the cost, that just we'll be really out that, we're aware that's outstanding. Get back to you. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Yeah, John.
Thank you, Convener. It's just a kind of quick question that obviously will affect us and any the next agenda item. It's just with the war out in the Middle East, and we know that there is a lot of, or rather, there is no movement in tankers to and from the Persian Gulf area. Will that have any impact on any of the figures that we have in front of us, or will that be addressed at the next Environment and Regeneration Committee meeting?
Convener, I'm not aware of anything hitting us at the moment. I feel like the likes of fuel prices stuff might hit in the short term for transport, but the timing right now will not pick anything up there. But given we're in March now, it'll be limited impact this year. Then maybe it may expand later on. Once we get to capital, obviously we've seen in the past there's been price rises linked to some of these issues in the past. I don't know if there's anything problem with that, but it's a little panned out. We obviously don't know how long to get last either. So we don't know at this stage. It's something we'll keep an eye on and report back in the future if that's the case. But I think that for the possible losses issue, it wouldn't just be ENR in that case.
Okay, that's fine, that's lovely, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a noting on appendix 3, and it probably isn't a question for Matt, to be fair. I noticed there's obviously a lot of budget lines with respect to material variances on environmental services. I'm just wondering, we obviously have the money that's coming through from the end producer levy with respect to waste or recyclable waste. I'm just wondering how will that be captured in the report, or does it need to be captured this year? Because I'm conscious of the fact that we've probably allocated money in October.
Thank you. So the EPR money is it's something we're looking to do strategically how we manage that, and further information we presented to the committee in due course. So that the proposal there, sorry, the funding noted allocated in appendix 3 isn't unaffected by that at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sandra, is that legacy hand that you've got?
It's away now.
That's all.
Sorry. Fine.
Yeah, thanks. I've just got a couple of quick questions under 3.1 B and H. It was just talking about the under recovery. Could just have some commentary on where we are with parking permits for businesses, and also why we have 83 less cremations than we did from last year.
Yeah, so you can be in terms of the business permit parking. It is being progressed at the moment, but it is in a queue in terms of the traffic regulation order. So the current activity is around the 20 mile an hour promotion, and that this will be the next one after that to be progressed. So it is getting closer to implementation.
Thanks. And so you're just picking up point around cremations. I don't have any information on the change in numbers compared to previous year, but I can ask the team on that in terms of it's just a wider population issue. If there's any other factors that are playing into that, I'll feedback on that.
Okay with that one, yeah?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Nobody else? No. Okay, item number 3 is the ENR capital programme progress report for 25 to 28. Eddie.
Thanks, Mayor. Capital report, those multiple projects, various phases. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just pick out a few that are some things that have changed since the report was drafted. Second phase of the Clun Park project is now commenced in site, demolition work in progress. The refresh of the council's problem condition surveys is also now nearing completion. The last remaining surveys to be completed involving a proportion of our schools, and they will be progressed over the Easter holiday period to minimise disruption. Based on this work, setting forward will inform the ongoing asset strategy reviews and our future life cycle investment requirements across the estate. On the lift project, the lift is actually being delivered today, and the installation will extend into April as confirmed in the report. Projects for Warrnambool Tower, 40 Street Saltburn and the transfer station fire lines used there have all now been completed. And there are various roads projects through external funding sources and internal capital programme outlined within the report. And there's also some that were completed in the current financial year within a separate round report on later on the agenda. Apologies for the typo within the update 3.38, which should obviously be in screen and not in the start of the text.
Yep.
As noted within the more detailed report to committee in due course. In terms of the overall expenditure projections against the 2025-26 approved budget, we're reporting slippage of 408,000, or just under 2.5%. That's the noted for approved recommendations. Myself and Neil happy to answer any questions in the various.
Okay, any questions for Eddie or Neil? John.
Thank you, convener. If we just look at appendix number 2, and we scroll down to the Scottish Crown Estate, and further down we have also the Community Bus Fund and the Bus Transformation Fund. Do you have further ideas on that? Just an explanation of what they actually are.
Yeah, through you convener, Scottish Crown Estate, and Matt can probably confirm where it comes from, it comes into as an annual allocation, as in the last few years. It is there available for us to use on any, I suppose, coastal asset works or surveys. We have a need for that. Obviously, we'll be doing surveys across a number of those assets. It's an ongoing programme, and we'll be looking at different parts of the coastline. We've still got an outstanding action, obviously, to develop a coastal adaptation plan as well, and separate other money that came in through ring fence funding. And the other two, I think I can come back on those two previously. The community bus fund was an allocation. What that was intended to be to deliver doesn't really fit with what the needs of Inverclyde priorities are. There wasn't a project to fit that. It was a previous year's allocation. It wasn't ring fenced, and the intention is that will go back in and be reallocated, potentially for a future refresh or part fund, a future refresh of the wider travel strategy across the local transport strategy across the area, which is due. It's probably 10 years ago that was last reviewed. And in terms of the community bus fund, that has been used as an update within the report on various things and works to bus shelters, etc. And that 50,000 should be spent, will be spent before the end of the financial year. That works on both.
That's very nice, lovely, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Can I just make a comment at 3.36 to thank the team. We've now sent the project, it's a major impact on the town centre, and we've all agreed that information sharing with constituents and those users is crucial. And I think so far, so good, they've done an excellent job to ensure that the public constituents know what's happening. I'm sure it will continue, just to pass on the thanks to them.
That's all. Okay. Anyone else? Ian?
Thanks, convener. It's 3.12, page 13. It's when it makes reference to the mural that's going to be designed and put forward. Just asking who is going to be doing the mural work.
I'll confirm that in due course. I think the mural has been designed with engaging with the school. I'm not sure if contractors to do that work, but I'll confirm that in due course.
Thanks. Thank you.
Anyone else? Chris?
A couple of things. I was going to say a few, but that might get you one. On 3.5, Town and Village Centres, obviously got the Bay Street recycling point relocation. Because of the fact we've got the Town Centre Regeneration Forum next week, I was wondering whether or not we can have further details of what's being proposed at that meeting. So it's at that meeting. Moving forward, we have the Active Green Central project, and my question is in relation to the diversion routes. Obviously, we're a few months, if not a wee bit away from that. But I'm just noting that there's works have been done on the diversion routes, etc. I was just wondering, can officers give some clarity with respect to has an exercise been undertaken with respect to school crossing patrols? Because a lot of these diversion routes are actually next to our existing school estate, and whether or not the anticipated flows may require us to revisit any assessments we made about school crossing patrols. And then moving on, it's good to see that there's been some work being done on the walk, wheel and cycle works. I noticed there's the Devolved Glen plans. We had a briefing last March on that. And I don't think the Devolved Glen plans provided or part of that proposal. So it would be good to sort of see what's been proposed at that point, because it has a sign on it that says I think it's 40% grade at one point in time. So it'd be interesting to see what's been proposed there. And no, that's basically it. So the main thing really is about the comment about the school controls.
Yeah, you can be. In terms of the basic car park one, we will give an update at the forum. Obviously, the update provided at the moment is kind of some of the enabling works in the soft landscape first, so I need to get back to the to see where they are with their part of it, which we'll all do for the forum. In terms of the school crossing shows, as part of the version we're planning, obviously, we included a new crossing point at Notre Dame, so there has been consideration of additional vehicle movements in terms of pedestrian flow. I can't answer that question in terms of school crossing patrol or impact, and that's something I can take away and check with the director just to make sure that they're sighted on. Okay.
No, thank you, that'd be very useful.
And then the wall plan, yeah, it's another one that's on the ongoing feasibility work. So we have undertaken to provide those copies of those feasibility studies as and when they're completed. We tend to wait until we've got a few to issue, but there's no. As soon as we have that one, we can send it out to all members so that you have appreciation of what might be possible. That might tell us what it's not possible. But that's
yes.
The point. Yeah.
Yes, I think with respect to the Old Glen, I think inventing a time machine, go back and stop them blowing up the bridge might be the best way.
Thanks, convener. Again, thanks for letting me come back. And it's just something that's came to mind since I was listening to the group Regeneration conversation last week. It's regarding Cove Road. We're also looking to do the speed bumps and the consultation period, do the extra work there, and also bringing out the small build out, which we spoke about, and that's in sort of pretty much the near future. What I wanted to ask and what made me think about it after that was also we've got sus trains are going to be coming into Cove Road, and they seem to be maybe a wee bit resistant to give us a time frame. Would there be some sort of consultation between both the council and sus train so that we make sure we're not getting a double done effect of that road being inconvenience to the local residents at all?
Yeah, we can certainly ensure that there's as much coordination as possible. I'll take that back to because it's understanding what two different elements are. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
So just to come in through on the point around the diversion routes in the schools, we have had Councillor Brooks's comment. We've done engagement with the schools team, the education team, and all of us head teachers, and advised that if they want to have open dialogue, if there's any issues that arise through the project, we'll be perfectly open to doing that. So we've made that open that channel of communication.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, Jim.
Thanks, convener. Just probably a couple of comments and a question. First, Eddie, thanks a lot. It's good to see that the walk lift installation is going ahead, and I look forward to the next committee meeting and we'll get an update on how well it's going. But it's been a long process, so thanks very much for that. I know it's been a long process to get to this bit, and I know it's not been easy. So I look forward to the next committee meeting to let us know it's nearly ready to be going. Second one, again, well done to the team getting the money for such trans. I'm going to call it the walk wheel cycle trust, because obviously that comes off the tongue nice and easily. So I'm glad to spend that much money in the marketing to make sure we call it the walk wheel cycle trust rather than sus trans now. And I'm sure the people in Inverclyde will be glad when the cycle tracks come in that they'll be able to comment on it to the walk wheel cycle trust. And finally, my question you'll be glad to hear is on the Greenox Town Fund. CT. Do we know when it will be signed? We expect, going by the report, we expect we've done everything they've asked us to do. I know it goes, and Chris has done his job, and I know your team has done his job as well. Do we know when we're actually expecting, which will hopefully be a rubber stamp to say we've got the money?
Next through you, convener. In terms of the town board, there was a meeting with the town board yesterday, and the update was provided to town board members. I'll just share with members of the committee today, and that is to the effect of the regeneration plan is complete, and that's the requirement for the UK government funding for the town board. We've had indication informally that the regeneration plan will be approved to the commission, and that they're intending to have the full suite of regeneration plans across the country approved by the end of this month. So it's imminent.
Thanks, Neil, and it's another one to thank your team for as well for the hard work they put into that.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. We move on to the clear recommendation for someone. Okay, item number 4 is the minor regeneration committee development and the improvement plan. Peter, Neil,
Yeah, thank you, convener. So the report for you is the usual update for the community delivery improvement plan. It's set in usual fashion. Won't cover projects and updates in detail there before you. 3.5 identifies a number of projects that we completed, including the Inverkip City View project. The Lockport Glasgow House Report, which members will recall was approved at the last committee. Runs the commencement of the Central Group Regeneration project, as we mentioned. There are some indication of where there's the slippage. One thing is of that of those is the economic growth plan in terms of it being intended to have that approved at this point in time. But the office are continuing to engage with wider partners on that, because the premise of having that approved was wider buy-in from the other partners, so we're continuing to work to achieve that. And there's further detail as indicated set out in the report, and I'll be happy to take questions on it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from you?
Yes, just on that, there's a couple of questions on the plan. Just touching upon what you mentioned there, Neil, just with respect to the economic growth plan, is there any, do you foresee any adverse impacts due to the slippage, or do you think it's going to be something that we can actually manage as we're having this ongoing engagement?
Thank you for your comment. So the economic growth plan was approved at committee 1 year ago in draft form. The intent was to have that as a draft plan so that we can engage partners to get them to come to the table with meaningful interventions. So funding and other measures. And finalise the plan, bring it back to committee last year in a finalised version. At the current point, we're not in a place to be able to finalise the plan, because the commitments from partners across the board haven't been strong enough to change where we are substantially from the draft. I would say that the draft is a competent overview of priorities and interventions that we are working on in any case, and are reflecting the task force asks. So I don't think there's any impediment to progress that we make as a council in and of ourselves. But I think we continue to encourage partners to come to the table with strong measures for support. Engagement has been okay today for what it was, but we're looking to convert some of those discussions into meaningful interventions, actions, funding, etc.
Okay, well, thank you. Just on EVR 007 local development plan, we've got a revised date, 31st of March 2026. Obviously, it's are we anticipating that date will be met? Because I noticed there's a follow-on action that was again stated for the 31st of March 2026, but it says it's not yet started. So I just want to get a bit of clarity that we're content with those dates.
Again, through your computer. So the LDP is obviously a statutory document, as you know, and it's been through this committee previously. Again, that was around about a year ago. Part of the process, and it's a real process, is that we require to gather evidence and submit an evidence report to Scottish Government for appraisal prior to getting what's called gate check approval for proceeding to write the health plan. Following committee approval last year, we submitted to the gate check process and received a number of areas of additional work required. The team are working on that, so we effectively put a 9-month delay on the programme to accommodate work that's required to be undertaken to go back to the gate check process. What I would say is that the council is not alone in its position on the local development plan process. As a national situation, there are more than 50% of councils who have written an evidence report have been declined. Some have been declined more than once, actually. Many councils have taken more than a year to write update their evidence report before submitting. So I would suggest that the situation is quite volatile in terms of clarity and certainty from a national government perspective as to what the requirements are. Government are aware of this and trying to improve the process. We're trying to meet the requirements that we've got before us. We'll do our best to do that in time, but we're in a system where there's external influences will certainly have a bearing.
So I suppose going back, so it's really there's a little bit of a health warning maybe on that 31st of March date.
Yeah, that's it.
On just the final point is on AVRs, usually around Queen Park Regeneration. Again, it's, I think we've got a revised date in there, 31st of March 26 for the development partner. I'm just wondering, that's, it says it's ongoing, we're obviously a few weeks away from that. Is there a possible update on that? And following on from that, there's a planning consent in principle for Queen Park on 31st of March 2026. But I know the commentary says the pre-application process underway, planning application is imminent, so we haven't actually had the planning application. So I'm just wondering whether or not that date there, 31st of March, for the planning consent needs to be reviewed.
Again, to you, can do it. So in terms of the planning application for the park, it is issued from its regular plan application principle. The application is with the service and anticipated it will be validated this week for assessment. It therefore won't be consented by the end of this financial year. We're currently looking at a target date of planning board for May this year. However, that will depend on some external consultations coming back as well. But that will be the target date on that. In terms of procurement and securing a development partner, and again, both of these items are with a view to move the compulsory purchase process, which will need to follow through for Clune Park. We've been seeking legal advice because it's important to get the process right around how we procure a development partner through a competitive process. And we're engaging with market interests in that as part of the procurement process to get that in place. So it's on the way, but there'll be some, I think, a few months in terms of running that procurement process through until we've secured a development partner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Anyone else? No, you agree with that? Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Jens.
On the Undercut project, the new lights, I've had people asking about why the lights aren't set to default for the main road rather than the side roads. They seem to, and I've checked this myself, they turn into red when there's nothing coming out of Undercut or the marina. Is that something you could talk to Transport Scotland about and get the lights set to green for the main road and Leicester's traffic coming out of the side roads?
Through your convener, wasn't aware of that particular issue, but I can take that back through the team and make them aware of it and get them to check whether the commissioning is correct.
I think it's especially that issue at night, you know, when there's less traffic. It just seems silly that they're set right to the main road.
Okay. Okay, can we agree with recommendation?
Agreed.
Okay, number new business. Item number 5, proposed road asset management plan capital program for 26-27. Maybe.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The report seeks approval for the road asset management plan and active travel programme for 2026-27. The criteria used to prioritise the schemes across the various asset strands is outlined in section 3, with the detail of the proposed schemes included in Appendix 1. We've also introduced a new Appendix 2 this year, which confirms the extent of the programme delivered in the current financial year. As noted within the report, at this point, the active travel allocation is provisional and subject to the confirmed distribution from Transport Scotland. As also noted within the report is the reference to additional funding for the RAM, which is now being confirmed as part of the recent budget. The officers will now review the programme to identify further works across the various asset strands. That's the committee approval recommendations and applicants to the questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that, Fred? No, don't see anything. No. Okay, can we agree recommendation? Okay. Item number 6 is the late report on the road. Any details?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and again, just apologise to the committee for the late issue of the report. Officers were awaiting information to conclude that report, and we appreciate the committee accepting that late report in the interest of expediting the decision on how to move forward. The report provides the committee with an update on the road project and the outputs in the ground investigation works, which have been undertaken to establish the viability of the realignment of the road. The history in the previous report to this committee and the options for the road and the reporting to the Policy and Resources Committee for allocation of funding is outlined in section 3. The factors influence the progress are outlined in section 3.6 and 3.8. A total of 22 alignment options have been examined, with the most feasible route set out on the site and then further adjusted to suit site conditions for the final detailed ground investigation scope to be defined. That process itself was protracted due to the difficult terrain and requirement for specialist plan. It was also impacted due to the presence of hen harriers in the area, and the committee will advise of this in the previous updates through the regular capital programme progress reports. On completion of the ground investigation works, standpipes and data loggers were installed for the purposes of gas and groundwater monitoring, which was undertaken over June and October last year. That data was then analysed and used to prepare the ground condition and slope stability report. The report includes a summary of all the outputs of that report, which confirms that the consistency and the density of the soils and the groundwater conditions are highly variable across the site. Appendix 1A shows the route examined. The green line that follows the road and the bottom, you can see all of that, it's not quite the VDT, the 3, and that shows the extent of cutting required into the hill. And Appendix 1B also shows some of the sections that bear illustrate the slopes that would be required to perform either cut through cutting or filling. The original intended benefit of realigning the road was on the basis of moving the road into an area of more stable ground. The conditions that are now confirmed through the ground investigation are much worse than indicated through the initial geohazard risk mapping undertaken earlier in the project. The implications of that are that the cut slopes and the upper slope beyond the cut slope to the line of the existing green cut have been assessed as requiring remedial stabilisation measures to meet design safety standards for construction following the road. Although the original cost of constructing the road itself has not significantly changed from the original reported figure, the requirement to soil nail the slopes over a substantial area linked to the ground conditions adds an additional 2.53 million to the overall project cost. The report before you today recognises that the realignment of the road is no longer a viable option due to that significantly increased cost and the fact that this option would not realise the original intended benefits due to the confirmed ground conditions. The committee is, however, asked to consider revisiting the repairing of the existing slope section option as outlined in Appendix 2. This would still require further but more limited ground investigation and detailed design, however is potentially deliverable through utilisation of the remaining allocated project funding and a review of unallocated funds within the current capital programme allocations as indicated in the recommendations. I appreciate this is not the update that was hoped for, however we remain committed to finding a viable solution for the reopening of the road. Thus, the committee note the report, consider the recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Paul?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks Eddie for that update on Dunner Road. This committee really set out a good determination and purpose a number of months ago to secure a permanent and long-term solution for Dunner Road. And for many people across Inverclyde, Dunner isn't just a rural route, it's a road in many ways to be thankful. It's a vital artery in the lungs of Inverclyde, connects communities, supports local business and provides access to Cornwallis, one of our strongest tourism assets. As members know, Dunner Road sits within my ward, and that's why today's update is particularly frustrating. You now learn the conditions in the site are significantly worse than we originally thought, and that option that got unanimously agreed by this committee now wouldn't be viable. Is again frustrating. I hear regularly from my constituents, for people across Inverclyde who are desperate to see Dunner Road reopen, and I completely share that desire. I don't think any of us want to be in a position where this road remains closed for any longer than absolutely necessary. But we also can't continue to rely on local road indefinitely. Keeping that route as a long-term access to Cornwallis would demand major investment, and then it wouldn't address the underlying problems and the wider impact of Dunner Road's closure. So yes, I'm deeply frustrated by this setback, and I think many of us will be. But I'm also kind of clear about what needs to happen next. And I think we need to move at pace and focus now on what will be the last remaining option that's open to us, because we need to provide some certainty to the many members of our community, businesses who rely on Dunner Road, and what will deserve action. Convener, in addition to the recommendation of the I want to make a request. And that request is that a site visit be arranged at the earliest opportunity for all elected members of the council, not just members of this committee. I think it's vital that every councillor sees first-hand the scale of the issue in Dunner Road, and only then can we all fully understand the challenges we're dealing with and be equipped to take more informed decisions moving forward.
Okay, thanks for that, Paul. I think that's a pretty reasonable request considering the background to what's happening. We get that up every time. Yeah. Okay. Jim?
Just one a wee bit of clarity, right? So we've got the bullet points, the recommendations. One to ask, I'm not a civil engineer, right? So this has been extremely protracted, and anything that's came to tonight, we'll plan to accept the word of our professionals because I don't really know any difference. And yes, it's been extremely disappointing as calls went out, but I know we've done it with a good faith, and our officers have done it with good faith. We try to get this road open. Bullet point number 3 says consider the position and revisit the option. Is that what the officers are recommending? But officer recommended that we do that? Because that's the bit that I'm not sure of. Yeah, we can consider it, but our officer recommended that's because we haven't followed officer recommendations in this, because they are the people who know best, and that they've commissioned the civil engineers and they've come back, and now they come back with this extremely disappointing information. So are the officers recommending that what we do is the repair as outlined in bullet point number, the third bullet point, and get that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So you can bring up, it's been worked that way because the original option of the report included an option to not fix the road and do nothing. So in terms of officer's recommendation, yes, that would be recognising that there is still a risk that it may not be viable, and that further more limited the investigation required and for the secondary tender to establish if it is viable. And we at the moment with the information we've got, we feel that it is potentially viable within that funding and some unallocated funds, keeping it within the directorate, but there is a potential that the detailed design for the investigation comes back again with a different picture, and that picture may change. But yes, it would be the officer's recommendation that we do look at this option.
Well, thanks for that, Eddie. Just
Yeah, I think I'm actually very pleased with the realignment of this longer and everything, because so many potential changes. And we all know the rest of the icon was Sam there over the years, so I think they could just have been the same thing, and I think studies have showed that now. I'm pleased that, you know, we're talking about now repairing the old road. I don't know that I feel like enough investigation work's been done in as much as I think it would have been better to dig the road out and see what rock and things we've got below there that could be pinned into. I see further back in the report, you know, there's this option of putting sort of carp and Gambian baskets in and things like that. I don't know that that would be as good as pinning into the rock that's in. And I'm also concerned that there's this 5.3 legal risk where it says traffic regulation order will be required to address Germany's 3.5 ton vehicle weight restriction. Well, you can't run a farm up there with a 3.5 ton weight restriction. You know, this sounds like half-baked remedy to the road rather than repair it properly. So I know how much feed comes into my farm in lorries, and I also know that the farm that's sort of above there, Shield Hill, they've got ground further down and they're running trailers with silage bales and all the rest of it. So you get a big trailer full of silage bales, you're way over 3.5 tons. So I think we need to do the job properly if we're doing it at all.
Through your convener, recognising I'm also not a sort of structural or civil engineer, and now can I give you any advice on farm vehicle weights? What is proposed or indicated in that appendix 2 is essentially what was done in the previous request section. So there is soil nailing as part of that. I know it's quite small, the text is very small. So that is the solution that was engaged in the last stoppage area, and that area hasn't actually moved again, which is positive. This is obviously going to be subject to further ground investigation. We did do ground investigation when it slipped, and it's indicated in the report in 2023. So they did do boreholes into the road to try and understand what had happened with that existing road. We have that information, but they need further information to now develop a design for that specific 18 metres of road building repair. So that may involve some of the measures that you see, it probably will. It will involve soil milling, as well as they gave in the past agent external consultants who are more specialists in this area, because we don't have that internal resource or that software modelling capability to provide the right design solution for this. The weight restrictions, I understand, it was actually placed on that road previously. So this is not a new thing. And if it's possible to put a better weight restriction on that, fall under in conclusion of a detailed design, that's something that obviously we'll consider. But we have to consider that there remains a residual risk there along that route, that there could be further slippage, and it would be remiss not to consider a weight limit on any repaired section of the road.
And from a farming point of view, that 3.5 ton, it's not really practical, and people will risk higher tonnages on it if it's not fixed above that. So I'm just saying.
Okay, Chris, your point?
Yeah, I suppose as a civil engineer, but I'm not going to go there. Because as everybody else in this chamber, we made a decision based on recommendations that have been received from people that are paid to do the job, and I've not been paid to do the job in this one. So, so effectively, we have the decision to make today. I might just want to go back just on to the weight limit, just because and it's mentioned it. I think my recollection is the last time we decided this, that there was a talk of a weight limit on the new road anyway, because that was part of the discussion, was whether it would be 7.5 tonne or 3.5 tonne weight limit, because understanding. So I'm just wondering, as the design's progressed and the opportunities have been looked at for the realigned road, was that weight limit? It might not be something that you might be able to answer today, but was that weight limit still part of the design option for the realigned road? Or was it so I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity to value manage that, or value engineer that, or is it the fact that no, we would still be talking about the same sort of level of cost, even with a restricted weight limit on that realigned road?
I don't have information on what weight limits they were designed to, but my understanding is that the ground conditions are such that the soil nailing would still be required. So I think that what we're saying is that option is no longer a viable option.
Yeah, generally, no, I won't say that. So moving on then, I think my concern here is obviously the timescales. In my back of my head always was with this project was 2027, the 200-year anniversary of the cut. And as we've touched upon at this meeting, it is seen as this is a road to a strategic asset, a tourist asset, an ability for people to get out into the countryside, go along the cut, go to all the variety of paths along in the Clyde Mutual Park. But I've just got about this is a good missing that deadline, the opportunity to attract more people in the 200th anniversary of the cut, of Tom, of the engineering about in the development of Greenock and all that sort of stuff. So I'd be keen to make sure that we're able to move quickly on what anything's decided here today. So certainly I'd be keen to we go ahead with the online solution and progress that as soon as possible. And I take it that we don't need any other approvals to progress that because we can do it within existing funding. We don't need any environments or anything else like that. The decision today and the committee can actually get that moving.
If you give me that, yes, although obviously if we get to a point of tender and cost back, if it is within that envelope, great. If it's not, we may have to look at other options. But yes, we're able to move it forward based on the decision today.
And with the additional geotechnical information we need, is that something that can be moved quickly as well?
Yeah, and we have had that discussion in terms of the time of the year as well, coming into the nesting season, but it is on the road mainly, so it should be possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No. So can we agree the recommendations and also add we're going to arrange a site visit for all elected members? Yes. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay.
Kind of supports the option, release the option to do this.
Yeah. Okay, item number 7. The 20 miles per hour speed limit programme, notice of motion by Councillor Brooks. Then,
Thanks very much, yeah. So, first let me start by thanking Mr McDonald and Ms Brown. I think this is version 6 of the motion that you have in front of you this afternoon. There has been a number of requests and questions by legal to ensure that the motion before you is a competent and appropriate motion. Let me briefly touch on the motion and then convene. I'll have 2 main points and 1 final note for information. The motion before committee today is quite clear that asks us to note the significant public concern since the information is leaking out of what's happening. Obviously, we have signs physically going up and people are asking questions, and the local media is doing the job of bringing it to constituents' attention. We're asking the committee to request officers to bring back an implication of what would happen if we were to pause the 20-mile speed limit project, and to ensure that our decisions is based on accurate information, have a detailed 5-year analysis of accident analysis. That's number 2. Number 3 is I think all in this chamber are aware that road safety is crucial, and we would want to target roads with a 20-mile-an-hour limit where the statistics stand up, where we have the information from officers. We would want to target and ensure that we can try and affect drivers' behaviour by reducing the speed limit on those target roads to 20 miles an hour. And with thanks to our Chief Financial Officer, I would say, and Ms Brown, number 4 in your paper of the motion is clear. It's simply to explore, asking us to explore the financial implications of doing such. If I bring my attention to 2 main points of why these 4 points are important to our constituents. This is started back in January, when I took the opportunity to write as Chief Executive, January 23rd, to highlight the challenges that have been brought to attention by constituencies regarding the 1,021 roads that we had agreed to implement a temporary traffic regulation order on. The constituents were also challenged on the basis of the information presented to members to make that decision, and you can see why that then fits into it. The email to Chief Executive dated 23rd of February hasn't been answered yet. So 2 main points that I bring to the committee to allow you to understand the 4 points on the motion. Committee's attention is brought to the fact that is the appropriate legislation to implement a policy decision. So let's be clear, this is a change of policy. To reduce our roads from 30 to 20 is a policy. So we have obviously legislation that's sort of temporary traffic regulation order under the Road Traffic Act. We have temporary issues like obviously a gas leak or if we must resurface the road. Quite clearly the legislation allows us to close that road on a temporary basis, to allow Scottish Gas or SGN to fix the gas leak, to allow our team to resurface the road. That's the understanding of the temporary issue. The fact that we would use that piece of legislation to implement policy is questioned. Now, I am not part of any legal challenge to the Clyde Council. Of course, that would be highly inappropriate, but there is questions being asked that is this the correct piece of legislation, because constituents would reckon that consultation with the public, with businesses, consultation with constituents would be crucial to implement a piece of policy. in this piece of policy. And also, I'm sure legal can confirm that that would be not TRO, but it would be a speed limit order, LSO, which then requires a consultation under the legislation. So would that not be the best piece of legislation to allow our constituents and businesses to inform us of what the issues would be should we implement 20 miles an hour? Secondly, convener, the 1021 roads, does it meet the test of the Act, Section 88 of the Act of the Road Traffic Act 1984? Does it meet that test? Desirable in the interest of safety is what the legislation that's laid down requests. So we have to establish that the roads are desirable in the interest of safety. So where's the evidence for that? And I could pick any of the 1021 roads, but I'll pick one in my constitution just as an example. Where is the evidence? So Lyle Road. Lyle Road is 8 houses, it's a 20-metre road, it's a dead end. So what has significantly changed over the years that we now need to reduce from 30 to 20 that road? Where's the evidence of crashes, police reports, or anecdotal evidence from members? If we're going to make that policy change on Lyle Road or other of the 1021 roads, where is the evidence? And this is the basis of the motion that allows us to make a pause if it should be desired. And obviously, legal was legal ensured that today's meeting would not pause the traffic, so the 20 police implementation, because that would be competent. We need to know the implications of pausing it. That's why the wording of the motion led. For my motion, advised by Ms Brown, is as before you today. Convener, these are the two main points that these 4 issues on the motion is before you. But let me finally confirm a note. I've made reference to Appendix A and B, which is a poll. The poll received 1,031 responses, statistically significant, which is based on the population size. It's indicative of a 95% confidence in the level, 3% margin of error. So what does that actually mean? It means that if we ask the same question again to the same audience, there's a 95% confidence in the level that we get the same answer with a 3% margin of error. So it confirms that not just that the polling is accurate in the poll that we have before us, but also there's a previous Women's Bay poll that had a very, very similar, I've got no information about the Women's Bay poll, there's a very similar poll. So we did 2 polls, and we can confirm that the integrity and the significance of the statistical information by statisticians would say that it is significant. Further, there's confirmation on social media, there's confirmation on on the media that implementation of the 20 mile an hour is, as it stands, is overwhelmingly negative. You can see that from the comments made on press and social media. Interestingly, there's a population statistic that was undertaken by a poll, undertaken by the Scottish Government, and it asked whether we should be reducing the speed limit on main roads, the national speed limit on main roads from 60 to 50. So the statistical return is actually better on the survey you have in front of you than the statistical return that the Scottish Government received from the population of Scotland. And that's just the way the numbers add up compared to the population and the population of Scotland. And we will be aware that the Scottish Government subsequently dropped the context to bring in a 50 mile an hour speed limit because the majority of people in Scotland didn't want it, according to their poll. We have a significant poll, we have significant information that says that 20 mile an hour speed limit is not the right thing to go, but we can't pause it today. That's not what this motion is asking for. The motion is clear and it asks members to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Paul, you first.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Just a quick question for Mr. Montgomery. The ultimate, obviously, Councillor Brooks' ultimate goal was to scrap this whole 20 mile an hour new scheme. So what's the financial implications, on that, in terms of like the money that we received from the government to start the implementation of it? Is there any clawback, in this, could we end up being out of pocket?
So you can be, yeah, I mean, the figure of the grant is actually 554,000, not 480, so it's increased to reflect the tender returns that we actually got in Transport Scotland. The increase it and cover that cost. There are conditions to that grant, and I had a look at them and checked them, very similar to what we signed up to, proactive travel grants, etc. It does allow for default, and if we default in terms of either not progressing or changing the agreed scope, they have the right to recover their grant immediate repayment with or withholding any payment if we try and draw it down. And if we don't pay within 14 days, they can even add interest onto it. So there are significant clawback provisions within the grant that we've signed, and that would be a risk here if we were to pause or change or do something that wasn't part of the agreed grant. Okay, thanks, David.
Yes, we've heard then, Ian.
Yeah, thank you, convener. I think I've read with Graham's proposed motion here, and I certainly don't feel able to support it. I suppose that there's a lot we could discuss today. Graham's mentioned a lot of information about statistically significant surveys, etc. And whilst it is true that generally a randomised selection of a population of about 1,000 will give you percentage plus minus 3%, it's based on randomisation, etc. And I don't have that confidence today from the questions I've asked about that survey, but I'll leave that stay at the moment. I think, from my perspective, I don't think there has been a significant change in the situation since we made a decision. It had to be confirmed, but we made a decision on the 4th of September 2025. So I would be moving an amendment. I presume that Graham has already effectively moved the motion. And my amendment would be the committee, having considered the notice of motion by Councillor Brooks, proposes that no action be taken on this matter at this time, as there has not been a material change of circumstances surrounding the implementation of 20 miles per hour speed limits in Inverclyde since the decision taken on this matter by Inverclyde Council on the 4th of September 2025.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I mean, I have to make a couple of points that Graham has made here, especially in paragraph 2, when he's asking for information on cause of road accidents. And I think I can talk here with a fairly well-versed previous experience in the cause of road accidents. So I'll give 1 or 2 points regarding that. First of all, the council has already debated policy and agreed to proceed within the rollout of the 20 mile per hour limit in residential areas. The purpose is straightforward: safer streets for the people who live there. My own experience as a police officer, 30 years, I've been driving police vehicles since the age of 19, then going on to being trained and instruction as a driving instructor, and then getting into further examinations as a driving examiner. My investigation into road traffic incidents must be fairly well spread and precise. In all the road accidents that I've investigated, I would say a high percentage of them is down to speed. First-hand consequences when speed or careless driving were factors. Too many incidents happened on ordinary streets where families live, and the consequences for those involved can be devastating. Measures that reduce vehicle speeds exist for a reason, because lower speeds significantly reduce the likelihood of death or serious injury in a collision. What concerns me about this motion is that it's asked the council to pause a programme, or whatever Graham has said there at the last part, that has been already approved and already underway. Stopping and starting policies because they become controversial does not create good at local government, it creates uncertainty. Our responsibility is not simply to react to the loudest voices, but to make decisions that improve safety in our communities. The evidence you need is right in front of your own very eyes, especially in the ward where Graham is in the West End. I can speak explicitly that the speed in these roads is excessive. I see it every day, in excess of 30 miles an hour, moving up to quite easily, which I can see in my own experience is 40 plus. If we reduce the speed to 30 and we get it down to low 20s, or 20 is what's desired, then we have achieved a great deal. And a final point, Convener, I'd just like to bring a point which has just been made to me, that there was a road accident just yesterday, I believe, in Sir Michael Street, where a young child was knocked out. And I would like to ask Councillor Brooks what he would say to the mother of that child if you didn't want to reduce the speed. Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, I think with the point that's been missed here, you know, I think the point is we haven't consulted the public on this. And we always said that Inverclade was a listening council. But how can we be listening if we're not even asking the question? So we need to go out to public consultation to ask the question. That's what we need to do.
Go back in and I will say answer the question being put to me and bring up. Thanks very much, Convener. Okay, so I understand the police investigating the crash of Michael Street. Something for me, comment on what I assume is a live investigation. I'm surprised that an ex-police officer has brought it to chamber today, so I'll make no further comment on that live investigation. Convener, it wasn't myself that asked for the tests to be made. We had anecdotal information from a number of members in the chamber that wasn't my request. I would ask legal to confirm that we are content as a council that we have met the test of section 88 of the Road Traffic Act, that we have the evidence that is desirable in the interest of safety, not by the routes, but by legislation before us, that test has been met, and we have the information that should we be challenged in a legal process, that we are confident of that being successful.
Peter, do you want to run that? So do you hear, so off the top of my head, I can't tell you it's definitely section 88, but what I can tell you is that the proposals that the council are currently putting forward have been through legal and are following advice from Scottish Government as well. I appreciate that's advice, that's not legislation. But we are confident that the process we're currently undertaking is competent and legal.
Chris?
Just want to come back on this point. Yes, consultation is important, but I think people need to understand the consultation aspect of this. And part of this process, there will be a significant period of consultation before the speed limit order is finally emitted, and that is an important part of it. And certainly, I know it's anecdotal, the response that I get from constituents is, in fact, it's not currently not proposed to put a 20 mile per hour speed limit in that section of the road. When will I have the opportunity to make that my views heard? And I said, well, it's part of the process. There will be consultation before the speed limits are fully implemented, and you'll be able to make your suggestions of alterations, etc., for the extent of 20 mile per hour speed limits at that point in time, and they're quite content with that. So yeah, consultation is part of the process, but we also have to have an efficient way of actually making a policy change, and this is what's been decided at national level. This is the efficient way of doing it, allowing consultation and allowing people to have the things when we can see the impact of the 20 mile per hour speed limits.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, okay, I'm maybe not making any exact assumption on the cause of a road accident, no matter where or when, but I can make detailed explanations as to what would normally be thought of in a road accident when a child is knocked down, and the effect that it has on everybody else. For example, as I've said before in the chamber, I think taxi driver, through no fault of his own, the taxi driver's there's the speed involved, and in a particular road accident, if somebody is knocked down, it's not just the driver, it's a whole range of people that's involved, from the person who hires the taxi vehicle to everyone else. Everyone else is involved in that. So to look in that in a wider spectrum, I would move forward that that's thought of, not just an individual set of circumstances. Paul?
Yeah, thanks, yeah. Just to reiterate the point, that Councillor Curley just mentioned, there will be consultation, and I think that's something that sometimes has been lost when this is brought to the public, because a lot of people have made it sound like there won't be any consultation on this, but there is going to be a consultation when it comes to making it permanent. and that's an opportunity for people up and down Inverclyde to make their views known road by road, what they think of whether 20 mile an hour should go on that road or not.
A point of clarity. That's a point of legal clarity.
Yeah.
Apologies to those who don't mind to him. That's assumption being made there, and I want to clarify that TTRO, you wouldn't be able to be prosecuted by travelling excessive to 20 miles speed limit when the TTRO is in place, which of course prior consultation.
So, in this instance, yes, depending on the term of the TTO, but yes, it would use the provisions that we would be able to do. And there would indeed be consultation as part of the speed limit order process as well.
Okay, Drew.
Thanks, Camille. Yeah. We've already decided for council to regress to the implementation of the 20 mile an hour speed limit, voted by well. 20 miles an hour is ideal for excuse me. 20 mile an hour is ideal for the schemes in the estates in Inverclyde. Take Port Glasgow, for instance, Kingston Dock, Deval, Park Farm, all ideal situations for a 20 mile an hour limit. I think people are worried about the number of road signs that are going up. You know where these estates which are contained, it could be just this estate is 20 miles an hour. We should be. Our officers have done a good job in mitigating the number of roads that are going to be changed. And I know the Chief Executive was involved in this to encourage the free flow of traffic through Inverclyde. And I think there's perhaps more to be done, because within the number of roads that have been changed, there'll be some that have been already said here that'll be up for argument, that'll come before this committee. I think that's the way it'll work. That somebody will come in. You think of the officer's time that it's going to take for each of these different roads to be analysed and a decision be made for each one by one. And this is what we've got ahead of us. And that's going to cost this council a fortune, an absolute fortune. And correct me if I'm wrong, if that's the way it's not going to be. The general public are not against this, far from it. But Graham asked for a targeted approach here. And I think he's wrong in the way he's going about it, because what he's asking is that we should look at a road that's 30 miles an hour and see if it should go to 20. And whereas I think very much should be looking at taking 20 as the norm, the standard, and looking at the roads that maybe should be at 30 or 40 throughout Inverclyde. I think officers have already done that, but I think we've got to look a bit more carefully at the number of roads that should be. And I think, I'm almost tempted to support Graham's motion to bring this back to full council. There'll be amendments that we can perhaps look more carefully at where the 30 should be still in place rather than change to 20. I think doing that, it'll save this council a substantial amount of money. Thanks.
Okay, John.
I'm just going to come in because again, the debate seems to go on. In my view, I thought we had debate. Graham then wound up the debate, and I thought we're then just going for the vote. And then other people have now come in. I don't see the reason for the amendment. I think it's just a straightforward B1. Graham's proposal or not.
It's a no action amendment.
Right, so it's still an amendment.
Well, it's no action. Yeah. His pros and motion got
applied for. Right. So it was just to point out that the third debate was finished, and then we let people in. So it's mainly applied for the standing orders. Graham had actually wound up, and we should have went to the vote. But people want to carry on debate, and it's up to yourself, Chair. I'm more than willing to.
Does everybody want to speak? No. Yeah. Okay. So do we require a vote? Peter,
Yeah. So to you, Chair, so we'll treat it as Councillor Brooks' motion per his report, And then councillor Curley's amendment, but as you say, it's effectively a no action amendment, is to not take. Yeah, but no action. We just change that to no action taken on the motion. Okay, no action taken onto this motion. Okay, so councillor Curley's amendment then be the committee having considered the notice of motion by councillor Brooks proposes that no action be taken on this motion as there's been a material change of circumstances surrounding the implementation of timing law speed limits in Inverclyde since the decision taken in the matter at Inverclyde Council on the 4th of September 2025. Okay. So members, I'm going to ask you to indicate if you are for councillor Brooks' motion. Councillor Brooks' motion. Councillor Cassidy. Amendment. Councillor Clockerty.
Amendment.
Councillor Crowther.
Amendment.
Councillor Curley.
Amendment.
Councillor Elliott.
Amendment.
Councillor McCormick.
Amendment.
Councillor Mackenzie. Motion. Councillor Nelson. Motion. And Councillor Quinn.
Motion.
And Councillor Reynolds.
Amendment.
We have 7 for the amendment and 4 for the motion. So the amendment is carried.
Yeah, move this to full council.
Yeah.
Staff and that's 60.
So three shares, so yeah, to have 3 further members who want to speak.
I'll go up to the conveyor.
You've got the 4 there,
So
We need to confirm.
yeah, so just councillor Brooks, councillor Mackenzie, do you support this being carried forward to full council? Councillor Nelson?
Yes.
And councillor Quinn?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 8. The use of power delegated to the chief executive to address the Green Road Community Fund extension and refurbishment project. Eddie.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The report provided the update on these powers delegated to chief executive. Best service and jobs project and assuring acceptance for the contract. Report provides the background to the project and the confirmed £700,000 Scottish Government external funding support linked to the early adopter community programme. The external funding within the facility to be extended as outlined within the appendices. The council funding has been added to expand the scope of the project and address wider fabric improvements to the existing building, including the addition of photovoltaic panels. This will address not only areas of the building highlighted as a needed investment through the recently completed condition survey, but also aligns with the council's net zero action plan and the commitment to consider retrofit opportunities as part of all the capital programme activity involving refurbishment or life cycle replacement and upgrade works. External improvements are also being made to provide car parking, which currently does not have, and access improvements generally around the building as outlined in Appendix 1B. That's the kind of note for applicant for the
Any questions for any? No, agreed. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next. The private.
No problem.